So these are insights into what you can do to make an existing business work even better. So one of the things I've been thinking about this past week, specifically with regards to a couple of my clients, is how to improve their existing businesses and optimize their existing businesses. Okay, so here's some ways that I find myself repeatedly talking about when we're talking about how you can go about building and growing and scaling these e-commerce businesses and how to do that more effectively. So stay in stock. It's such an easy thing to do, you would think, but it's proving to be more and more important as Amazon evolves and changes and develops and grows. One thing they are really doubling down on is getting us as the entrepreneurs, the e-commerce entrepreneurs, to be much more or to be better at managing our stock and managing the amount of stock we have in Amazon's warehouses. So if you've been around for a little while, you're probably aware that Amazon's got stock limits. There are actually ways to overcome those stock limits, which I'm going to be talking about on Thursday in a circle. But they don't want you to run out of stock. And also, they don't want you to have too much stock. So it's a bit of a balancing act, but they really, really penalize you if you do run out of stock. Like, it's crazy. It's a crazy, crazy thing. So the longer you're out of stock, Amazon tends to operate in 7-day intervals or 24 hours and then 7 days. So lots of things happen by the hour. Bestseller badge, for instance, every hour that's updated. Some things happens every 24 hours. Some things happen every 7 days. And the 7-day thing is stock in. So if you've got stock in on a 7-day rotating cycle, your listing can do as well as its potential to do is. Okay. But if you run out and you're out of stock for 7 days, you're kind of screwed. And every additional day that you're out of stock past that 7 days, you progressively lose more and more of the sales rank that's been assigned to your product. Sales rank is just a measure that Amazon uses to say, here's where we're going to put this particular product in the search engine results when somebody types in and searches for whatever it is you sell. It's a measure of that, your sales rank, okay? How far up you rank from that. Don't run out of stock is the big thing for that, okay? Next, dunk, dunk, dunk. Great products, sell well. This ought to be a no-brainer for us, but unfortunately it isn't. And still, you'll find people launching, not in Aussie online entrepreneurs, none of you guys, I'm sure, in other people, they will launch products that realistically have got no reason for existing over and above the fact that the entrepreneur just wants to launch that thing. So there's been no thought process into the end user of the product and what's important to them and what they'll be sorting for and how you can make their lives better by altering your product in any given way, okay? And the reality is, the more able you are to hyper focus on a specific subset of a given niche, and we're going to talk about this in a little wee while, the better your product will do because it more perfectly suits that particular subset. And all things being equal, price is equal, product categories equal, et cetera, if one product, for whatever reason, just does a better job of serving the needs of that customer, it could be lots and lots of different ways it does that, that product will sell well. So when I talk about a great product, that is what I'm referring to, okay? No amount of good advertising or good marketing will save a shitty product. In fact, what that does is it actually accelerates the failure of the product because you get to find out, and you can argue that's a good thing, you get to find out much, much faster if the market wants your product, okay? Next, price. Do not be afraid of increasing price. I'm going to talk about pricing next. Pricing related stuff for me is fascinating. Understanding the psychology of a buyer as they go through the buying process is really, really interesting. So I spoke to a friend of mine who's got a restaurant here in Lisbon, pretty high-end restaurant, like they charge a lot of money. And I was like, oh, what's it like being in the restaurant game in Lisbon in 2023? And he said, oh, I'm not in the restaurant game. I'm not actually in that game. I was like, fuck do you mean? Of course you're in that game. You've got a restaurant. Of course you're in that game. It was like, I'm not in that game. I'm in the status game, which is a fascinating way to think about it. So he thinks about his restaurant as a way for people that come into it to flag their status in the world. Okay. Very, very interesting way of reframing what a restaurant actually does. And now that he looks at his restaurant through that new frame, he puts all of his prices up, because then it becomes a game of who eats there clearly can afford to eat there. So status is a play, okay? And anytime you can invoke status, like, douchebags that drive Porsches and that sort of stuff, then that's going to be really, really good for you and your brand, okay? There's really fundamentally not much difference between a product A and product B. Product A might be $50. Product B might be $100. Fundamentally, they probably do this pretty much the same things. But if you can invoke status into that, and you can do that through price, of course, and good branding, that's always going to be a great way of differentiating yourself and charging more for your services. Anyway, next, conversion rates. So Amazon is a massive data-centric company. So that means that they get privy and access to a shitload of conversion data. So things like, for instance, the number of people who search for a specific search term on Amazon, and then what they do directly after searching for that information. They're all data points that Amazon can optimize for, okay? And so on Amazon, there are some really important conversion rates that make a massive, massive difference. Maddie Burks posted a link to a book. It's called The Status Game. It's by a guy called Will Storr. The book is first rate, okay? The Status Game, Will Storr. It's an amazing book. He actually wrote some other cool books too, but that's an amazing book. Good share, Maddie. So those conversion rates really, really matter. Have we got an Amazon page up? So the conversion rates that we have to be obsessed about is the people that type something in, telescopic ladder, and then come scroll down and click on our listing. That's a hugely important conversion rate, okay? And it's the first thing that Amazon looks at. The more people that click on your listing, the more Amazon pays attention to you. And then, of course, once they click, well, then we can start looking at getting them to actually buy the product. And again, that's an important metric. How many people from here either add it to basket or buy now? These are all really, really important things. And that's all data that's available, of course, in Seller Central in reports, okay? So bottom line for this is, in terms of optimizing a business, it's actually much, much smarter to look at those conversion rates than it is to just pour more and more money into your marketing spend. Because if you look at the conversion rates and get all those optimized, and then pour even more money into your marketing, then your business can go crazy, cray-cray. So conversion rates really, really matter. Pay attention to them. You only need to track, 5 or 10 in your business to have a far, far better awareness about what's going on in your business than the vast majority of people, okay? And anything that gets measured gets improved. Anything that you focus on improves, okay? There are riches in niches. One of the biggest things that really changed the way that I operated as an e-commerce entrepreneur was when I started thinking about individual customers. So instead of thinking about what products am I going to sell, what I think about now is who's the buyer? Who is this specific person, and what are their own unique problems, needs, whatever that may be? Who are they? What problems have they got? Okay. And as soon as I started doing that, it really changed the way I started thinking about how I approach e-commerce. In fact, the AOE training course now accurately reflects all of that additional awareness that I've been able to glean as an e-commerce entrepreneur. But it's massively important. And what I've learned about that is if I focus on one specific person, there is hundreds, nay, thousands of people who've probably got the same unique problem. But by focusing on one person and one person only, it allows me to communicate really, really effectively. Okay. And as we get more and more people shopping online and more people becoming aware of shopping online, this will become more and more important. People want what they uniquely want. And the more we can think about that in terms of unique wants, the better you'll do as an e-commerce entrepreneur. That was a video from my regular Monday night Q&A session with the members of the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs. We are a community of over 2,500 people and growing. We're the fastest growing community of e-commerce entrepreneurs right now, with sales, by the way, of over $50 million. If you would like to find out more about what we do and also come and join us, get yourself off to www.aussieonlineentrepreneurs.com.au. The link for that is in the description, and I will see you on the next video. Until then, bye for now.